It's midnight and you're watching Nightline with me, Muhammed, Ahmad, Hamdan, and here are the top stories. Government to review Judicial Appointments Commission Act. And Pipeline Inferno action plan to repair rebuilt victims' homes submitted to Prime Minister. Good morning. The government will carry out a review of the Judicial Appointments Commission JAC Act 2009 following calls for the role of the Prime Minister in the appointment of judges to be removed. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the review will be holistic and in line with the spirit of institutional reform. In a statement on Wednesday, Anwar said the move is to ensure that the process of judiciary appointments truly reflects the principle of transparency and the independence of the judiciary without affecting the role of the king and privileges accorded to the rulers under the constitution. He added that the review will involve negotiations with stakeholders, including the judiciary, Conference of Rulers, Malaysian Bar and non-governmental organisations, NGOs. Anwar also acknowledged that a lawyer had applied for judicial review in the High Court to challenge the constitutionality of the JAC Act. The Prime Minister said Putrajaya respects the right of any individual to seek the court's clarification on interpreting the constitution, but will defend the legitimacy of the Act in court. Nonetheless, Anwar acknowledged that there had been multiple calls for the law to be reviewed. He maintained that any reform undertaken by the government must be in line with the Constitution, respect the doctrine of separation of powers, and uphold the rule of law. An action plan for the repair and reconstruction of homes damaged in the Putra Heights gas pipeline fire has been submitted to the Prime Minister. Confirming the matter on Wednesday, Housing and Local Government Minister Nga Ko Ming said the Cabinet's main priority is to assist victims in restoring their fire-damaged homes while ensuring that the rights of property owners are upheld. In a statement, Nga said the action plan was developed by a special task force established last week comprising all agencies under the ministry, especially implementing agencies such as Syarikat Perumahan Negara Berhad (SPNB) and Perbadanan Prima Malaysia. The minister also announced an allocation of 2 million ringgit to the Subang Jaya City Council (MBSJ) to repair public infrastructure in areas affected by the blaze. The National Solid Waste Management Department and Solid Waste Management and Public Cleansing Corporation (SW Corp) will also provide assistance to the Selangor State Government to carry out cleaning work in the affected areas this weekend. The Petronas gas pipeline fire that broke out at around 8:10 a.m. on April 1st sent flames more than 30 meters into the sky, with temperatures soaring to 1,000 degrees Celsius. It was reported that hundreds of houses, properties and vehicles in the surrounding areas were either damaged or destroyed following the incident. Temporary relief centres (PPS) for the Putra Heights victims are being closed down in stages, with Dewan Camellia, which housed 17 families, officially closed on Wednesday night. This follows the return of some residents to homes which authorities have declared safe for reoccupancy, while housing assistance continues to be provided to other affected victims. Selangor Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Amiruddin Syari said the Putra Heights Mosque PPS, which currently houses 87 families, is expected to close by the end of this week or early next week as more residents return to their homes or are relocated elsewhere. These families will be provided with basic food aid such as rice, flour and cooking oil free of charge for a month.
Untuk di PPS, Masjid Putra Heights juga akan ditutup kerana rumah-rumah dan kediaman mereka telah diserahkan dan Kerajaan Negeri juga telah mula menawarkan perumahan seperti Airbnb dan juga tawaran duit sewa dan sebagainya.
So far, a total of 270 houses have been declared safe and can be reoccupied, with homeowners also permitted to carry out repair works immediately. In cases where the damage is minor, a standard form of assistance will be offered and implemented by the Recovery Committee. At the same press conference, Amiruddin announced that Selangor civil servants will contribute more than 100,000 ringgit to the Selangor Prihatin Fund to help the victims of the Putra Heights gas pipeline fire.
Semua ahli-ahli majlis mesyuarat kerajaan negeri akan menyumbang 1,000 daripada gaji mereka. Keseluruhan ahli-ahli Dewan Negeri akan menyumbang 200 daripada gaji mereka. Dan untuk penjawat awam yang status 48 dan ke atas akan menyumbang RM50 daripada gaji mereka.
To date, 219 households affected by the incident have received immediate cash assistance of either 10,000 ringgit or 5,000 ringgit, as previously announced by the Prime Minister. The state government has also finalized a list of 469 households eligible to receive the same assistance. In the meantime, special care should be provided to Putra Heights gas pipeline fire burn victims of advanced years and those with underlying health issues. Malaysian Red Crescent MRC Chairman Tan Sri Tunku Putri Intan Safinas Almarhum Sultan Abdul Halim Muazzam Shah said these were among the concerns expressed by the families of the victims, adding that help has to be tailor-made for each person. She also said villagers who lost their homes or were forced to evacuate should be given the option to rebuild their homes in Kampung Kuala Sungai Baru. Some of the villagers, she said, want to stay and remain in their traditional village. She added that those living at the relief centre were satisfied with the help provided by the various agencies and groups. Meanwhile, additional assistance has also been announced to alleviate the financial burden on affected residents. Unity Government spokesman Datuk Fahmi Fadil stated that this includes exempting victims from prepaid and postpaid service charges for a specified period. According to Fahmi, other assistance provided includes the free replacement of equipment and SIM cards for affected customers, as well as complimentary 5G Wi-Fi services at the PPS.
Penawaran bantuan sokongan dan pemulihan telekomunikasi kepada pelanggan yang terjejas adalah mengikut keperluan dari semasa ke semasa dan berbeza mengikut syarikat telco.
Fahmi, who is also the Communications Minister, said this during a press conference following the Cabinet meeting in Putrajaya on Wednesday. He added that the Prime Minister has instructed the Human Resources Ministry and the Investment, Trade and Industry Ministry to obtain a comprehensive list of factories and companies affected by the April 1st incident. The aim is to gather information on affected workers and understand the challenges faced by the respective companies. The Selangor state government had previously confirmed that 8,000 residential and commercial properties, as well as 300 factories, were affected by the Putra Heights gas pipeline fire. Moving on, China's President Xi Jinping is expected to make an official visit to Malaysia from April 15th to 17th. Fahmi said Xi's visit is part of the government's efforts to diversify its trade relations with various countries.
Jemaah Menteri telah dimaklumkan bahawa lawatan ini bukan hanya dinantikan tapi adalah sebahagian daripada usaha kerajaan sebagai ataupun Malaysia sebagai sebuah negara perdagangan yang mana kita ingin melihat hubungan perdagangan yang lebih baik dengan pelbagai negara termasuk negara China.
Fahmi added that more details of the official visit will be announced by Wisma Putra. Malaysia's cooperation with China is being closely watched in the region amid growing international economic uncertainty following reciprocal tariffs announced by the US earlier this month. According to reports, Xi will embark on a Southeast Asian tour where he will also visit two other nations, Vietnam and Cambodia. ASEAN Secretary-General Kao Kim Horn has called for the bloc to function as a single market to strengthen its position following the sweeping tariffs announced by US President Donald Trump. Kao said the tariffs have sent shockwaves across the global trading system, striking the very foundation of corporate trade and investment, which for decades have underpinned ASEAN's growth and prosperity. To achieve this, Kao urged ASEAN to remain committed to its founding principles of openness, resilience and unity.
In the face of these headwinds, ASEAN must hold firm to its founding ethos, openness, resilience and unity. We need to deepen our regional bonds, tap into the inherent strengths of our 678 million people, unlocking the breadth of our shared potential, and diversify our markets and partners.
He said this during his keynote address at an ASEAN conference in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. He said the ASEAN Economic Ministers' special meeting on Thursday will assess the impact of the US tariffs on each ASEAN member country and the bloc as a whole. Tariffs on the 10 member countries vary from 10% for Singapore to 49% for Cambodia. Kao said without urgent and collective action to accelerate intra-ASEAN economic integration, the region faces increased risks from global trade tensions and uncertainty. He said ASEAN remains committed to upgrading existing free trade agreements, FTAs, to ensure that they stay relevant and effective, adding that the region will sign an updated ASEAN-Australia-New Zealand Free Trade Area deal on April 21st. Kao said ASEAN is also working on signing an upgraded FTA with China and finalizing a review of the ASEAN-India Trade and Goods Agreement. China unveiled retaliatory tariffs of 84% on imports of U.S. goods on Wednesday, matching additional tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. The announcement means China has increased its intended levy on U.S. imports by another 50 percentage points from the initial rate that is set to take effect on Thursday. The amount is the same as the added charge that Trump has already imposed on Chinese goods. Trump's sweeping reciprocal tariffs took effect earlier, with tariffs ranging from 11% to 50% now applied to imports from 60 U.S. trade partners. These countries have been labeled by Trump as the worst offenders for what he views as unfair trade practices.
I'm telling you, these countries.
In the meantime, the European Union has approved tariffs to hit around $23.2 billion of US goods in retaliation for the 25% duties Trump imposed last month on the bloc's steel and aluminium exports. A majority of the EU's 27 member states on Wednesday voted in favor of the penalties, some of which will start taking effect in mid-April. The tariffs target a wide range of U.S. products, including almonds, orange juice, poultry, soybeans, steel and aluminium, tobacco and yachts. The European Commission, however, said the countermeasures can be suspended at any time should the U.S. agree to a fair and balanced negotiated outcome. Drugs worth over 1 million ringgit seized. These and more from the foreign front, from the local front when we come back. Welcome back. The Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court on Wednesday granted the request by Kinabatangan Member of Parliament Datuk Seri Bung Mokhtaruddin and his wife Datin Sri Zizi Izzat Abdul Samad to stay their defence proceedings against 3 corruption charges amounting to 2.8 million ringgit. Judge Rosli Ahmad made the ruling after lawyer M. Athimulan informed the court that the prosecution did not object to the request, pending the outcome of the review application against the Court of Appeal's decision, which had ordered the couple to enter their defence. The court then set new trial dates from August 18th to 20th, September 2nd to 4th, and September 24th to 26th, 2025. On September 2nd, 2022, Bung Mokhtar and Zizi Izzat were ordered to enter their defence on the 3 corruption charges after ruling that the prosecution had successfully established a prima facie case against them at the close of the prosecution's case. In Pulau Pinang, a police officer remains in critical condition after sustaining a severe gunshot wound to the head at the state's police contingent headquarters on Monday. State Police Chief Datuk Hamzah Ahmad said the 58-year-old corporal, who is currently receiving treatment in the intensive care unit at the Pulau Pinang Hospital, was found in a security room with a serious head injury at about 6:12 p.m. In a statement, Datuk Hamzah said initial reports suggest the injury may have been caused by the officer accidentally shooting himself. Police are exploring various potential leads, including allegations of deaths linked to the officer. Authorities are also awaiting statements from the officer's relatives who are en route from Kuala Lumpur. The incident, which involved a gunshot from the officer's service weapon, is being investigated under the Arms Act 1960. Police are tracking down an individual believed to be a loan shark for allegedly throwing Molotov cocktails at a house in Ipoh, Perak. The incident occurred at a house in Kampung Rapat last Friday. In a statement, Ipoh Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Abang Zainal Abidin Abang Ahmad confirmed that police had received 5 police reports from a 62-year-old woman between March 26 and April 4th. Initial investigations revealed that 5 Molotov cocktails were hurled into the victim's property. Burn marks were found on the house's front gate, car porch, front door and wall. The victim claimed she was targeted by Alongs and had received threats demanding repayment of a debt, conveyed through a note left in front of the house gate. Earlier, a video went viral on social media showing a man throwing 2 Molotov cocktails at the upper floor and compound of a 2-story house, one of which struck a black dog, sparking outrage among netizens. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for mischief by fire. The Sabah Customs Department has seized shabu worth 1.3 million ringgit following a series of operations conducted across the state throughout March. Various other smuggled goods were also confiscated, bringing the total value of the seizures to over 3.3 million ringgit. Sabah Customs Assistant Director General Saidin Jalaluddin said the drugs weighing more than 40.7 kilograms were found concealed in 2 boxes during an inspection at the Sempurna Kota Kinabalu bus terminal in Sempurna on March 11th. The syndicate's modus operandi involved using bus terminals to hide and transport drugs in an effort to evade detection by the authorities. Investigations are ongoing to identify the syndicate responsible for smuggling the drugs. Separately, customs officers also seized ketum powder, firecrackers, fireworks and cigarettes during the operations in Sandakan, Tawau and Lahad Datu. 2 vehicles used in smuggling activities were confiscated, along with a Labuan registered car that had overstayed its permitted time in mainland Sabah. All cases are being investigated under the Dangerous Drugs Act, Poisons Act, Explosives Act and Customs Act. Nearly 100 dead after nightclub roof collapses. The details when Nightline returns. We're back with news from the foreign front. At least 98 people have been killed and 160 injured after a roof collapse at an iconic nightclub in the Dominican Republic's capital. The incident occurred during a concert at the Jet Set nightclub in Santo Domingo in the early hours of Tuesday. A provincial governor and former Major League Baseball pitcher Octavio Dotel were among the victims. Efforts to rescue those trapped under the debris are continuing, though the exact number of people inside the nightclub at the time of the collapse remains unclear. However, local media said between 500 and 1,000 people were reported to have been in the club when the disaster struck. At least 20 people have been killed in a fire at a nursing home in northeastern China's Hebei province. The fire in Chengde City broke out on Tuesday night local time and was extinguished in about 2 hours. It was reported that 19 survivors were transferred to nearby hospitals for further observation and treatment. Authorities are currently investigating the cause of the blaze, and a person in charge of the home has been detained. Moving on, at least 3 people were killed and 3 others wounded on Tuesday after a mass shooting in southeastern U.S. Authorities said the shooting occurred at about 5:30 p.m. local time in Spotsylvania County, Virginia, where, upon arrival, deputies found multiple people shot. All of the injured were then transported to local hospitals. Authorities believe the shooting may have been committed by more than one person. However, no arrests have been made and no information about a possible motive has been released. Officials are actively searching for suspects and preserving the crime scene. South Korea's Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung stepped down from the party chairmanship on Wednesday to run for president in the June 3rd election, triggered by the ouster of former President Yoon Suk-yeol. Lee, considered a front-runner for the upcoming presidential election, announced his decision to resign, with the nation's largest party expecting Lee to announce his presidential bid as early as Thursday. The 61-year-old is considered a leading candidate in the election, though he is at the heart of several scandals. He lost by the slimmest margin in the country's history when he ran against Yoon in the 2022 presidential election. A nationwide general strike disrupted public services across Greece, with ferries tied up in port, flights grounded, and public transport running only part-time as labor unions press for higher wages to cope with rising living costs. The 24-hour strike on Wednesday was called by the two main umbrella unions covering the public and private sectors, seeking a full return of collective bargaining rights, which were scrapped as part of international bailouts during Greece's financial crisis. Greece has increased the monthly minimum wage by a cumulative 35% to $970, but many households still struggle to make ends meet amid rising food, power, and housing costs. Over to sports. Badminton, the 2025 Badminton Asia Championships, national shuttlers got off to a good start by reaching the second round in Ningbo, China on Wednesday. First up was national men's doubles duo Aaron Chia So Woo-yik, who made a commanding start to their campaign. The six-seeded pair took 40 minutes to see off Japan's Kenya Mitsuhashi Hiroki Okamura 21-18, 21-15, setting up a meeting with Indian pair Hariharan Amsa Karunan, Ruben Kumar Ratina Sabapati in the next round. Another national men's doubles pair, Gozi Fei Nur Izuddin Muhammad Rumsani, also advanced to the second round after beating Japan's Takuro Hoki Yugo Kobayashi 21-18, 21-16. Awaiting the duo in the next round will be Thailand's Kittinupong Kedran Dechapol Puavara Nukro. In the women's singles event, professional shuttler Go Jinwei booked her place in the second round after crushing Taiwan's Sung Chuo-yun 21-16, 21-13 in 41 minutes. The former world junior champion will meet Thailand's Supanida Katetong in the next round. However, it was a different story for women's doubles pair Perlitan Mtina, who fell short in a hard-fought battle against South Korea's Kong Hee-young Kim Hae-jung. The duo fought valiantly but were edged out 19-21, 26-28 in a nail-biting contest. And that wraps up this edition of Nightline. We leave you with visuals of China's Sichuan province, renowned for its ethnic diversity and natural wonders, attracting crowds of tourists with its beauty. With that, I'm Muhammed. I'm Hamdan. Thanks for watching and stay safe.